Welcome to episode 12 of Impact Statements. Impact Statements is sponsored by Impact Gaming Center, which is your St. Louis's premier hobby destination. It is located close to you in the heart of St. Louis. Impact Gaming Center has all the TCG supplies and singles you might need for any of your favorite card games. Along with TCG supplies, the shop also carries Lego, Warhammer, and board games to meet all your hobby needs. Make sure to head over to impactgamingcenter.gg for anything you might need to level up your gaming night. Looking for more Magic content? Make sure to check out twitch.tv/Impact Gaming Center and Impact Gaming Center on YouTube. Our cast is a little different today, and so I'll introduce them. First, we have V with us.
What's up?
And then we also have Johnny with us.
What up?
We will be talking about how Lorwyn affects the standard RCQ, or standard with RC Portland coming soon. So first, let's start about the current metagame. What does it look like?
Standard's got a lot of cards in it, and it will continue to have a lot of cards in it. So the decks are pretty powerful, and I think it splits kind of into two camps. So you have kind of unfair decks and then fair decks. Unfair decks try to do something pretty absurd to win the game very quickly or in like one fell swoop. I mean, in this metagame right now, we have two actual infinite combo decks. We have the Avatar combo deck, which is based around Aang, Swift Savior, and Appa, Steadfast Guardian, I believe. And they airbend each other basically. And every time you airbend with Appa in play, you make a soldier. If you have Doc Hourlock, casting from the airbend zone is free. And so you just make infinite guys. Once you do that, you can win it any which way. It's a very powerful deck. It showcased quite well in the past couple major events in the SCG Con Atlanta and then the large tournament in Lyon as well. Put some people into the top 8. Its only real weakness is its mana, and Lorwyn will helpfully fix some of that. The other infinite deck is not as good probably, and that's the Beifong combo deck, where it utilizes Beifong's Bounty Hunters, Umbral Zealot to sack creatures, and then Bloodghast, which comes back when lands enter the battlefield. Every time you sack a creature, Beifong animates a land, earthbends a land. You then sack the land to bring the land back into play to return Bloodghast. That loop can just go infinite a bunch of different ways, either with multiple Bloodghasts making multiple lands very large. The Umbral Collar Zealot lets you do that with the Surveil, lets you just put your whole deck into your yard through this combo. If you've got a Festering Gulch, the burn land from OTJ, it deals 1 damage on ETB. It's a literal infinite that way. These two decks present actual infinite when they go off. But there's also 3 other kind of like pseudo infinite decks in this format, where you have the UG Ouroboros deck, the Green X Landfall decks, and then the Reanimator decks. All 3 of these do something so absurdly powerful, it functionally ends the game, and sometimes it's just doing like 27 damage, which usually ends a game.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of damage.
Yeah. So the Ouroboros deck is a bit of a misnomer. I think it's really a Craterhoof deck. The Ouroboros is the plan B, and because the old iterations of this deck were Ouroboros deck, the name is kind of carried over. But this deck can have multiple turn 3 kills. There's multiple avenues to a turn 3 kill that are all based around Llanowar Elves and Badger Mole Cub on 2. Then presenting multiple Mana Dorks on turns 1 and 2 then allows you to just play Nature's Rhythm or Craterhoof, and then the game just functionally ends at that point. Backup plans being Ouroboros and Quantum Riddler for grinding purposes. And the deck is just really powerful and resilient and doesn't have any like direct counters. I think the Airbending deck has some cards that just make it so you cannot do your thing. High Noons, Torpor Orbs, things like that. This deck, it's removal spells. You need to chain removal spells to beat them. Otherwise, you're just going to die to massive creatures. The same thing is kind of true of the Landfall deck, but it mostly leverages Mightform Harmonizer and fetch lands like Fabled Passage, Escape Tunnel, things like that to double a creature's power. If you double enough times, creatures basically become arbitrarily large. It's not as effective at presenting a turn 3 kill as the Ouroboros deck because it makes one creature super large and it doesn't trample usually. But it can present a very powerful turn 4, turn 5 kill with trample. It uses the Ascension card, Earthbender's Ascension, bunch of land drops, enormous bodies just slam you in the face for way too much damage. And then the last one is the Reanimator deck. The Reanimator deck, the goal is to cast Superior Spider-Man with a Bringer of the Last Gift in your yard, which is a living end effect, meaning basically you sack every creature on the board except the Spider-Man or Bringer, and then bring back all the creatures in your yard. And Arden gives all demons haste, Terror of the Peak shoves damage upstairs. You can win on that turn, or you just wipe your opponent's board and then have 8 6/6s in play. Tough to beat that situation as well. And these decks being so powerful and so kind of unfair really warps the metagame around them. Weirdly enough, I don't think any of them are actually the best deck in the format. The best deck is probably the Blue-Red Lessons deck. But everything in the fair decks is built to deal with these 5 decks. Realistically 4. I think Beifong combo deck is a level below the other 4. But the other 4 all present so much power that you have to respect them, and you have to be doing something equally unfair to be able to actually keep up. Otherwise, you'll just get squished. John, you want to talk about the lessons deck, the fair decks, lessons, all that kind of stuff?
So the lessons deck is just very fair. Like, what basically it has a lot of synergies with the lesson cards. What you essentially, some of the lessons like have different synergies with each other. Why am I drawing a blank on the one that's like Ancestral Recall?
Accumulated knowledge, I think, is what it's called.
Not accumulated knowledge. It's accumulated wisdom.
Oh, that's the one. Sorry, accumulated knowledge is a totally different card.
Yeah, I mean it's
close enough.
Similar thing, right? Because you play like grand, it makes your stuff cheaper because you discard so much. You rummage through your deck so quick. So essentially, when you cast that card, it feels like Ancestral Recall because you'll have a bunch of lessons in your yard. It's got a lot of cheap removal to deal with those aggro decks, and then you also use like Artist Talent to try to speed up that process, and it synergizes with. Man, I'm really bad at. Remember the artifact that discards you draw
Monument's
a card.
Endurance.
Monument's Endurance. Damn. Yeah, we're Monument essentially, where you just draw cards, make treasures, and people lose 3 life. So eventually you get to a point where you start rummaging through your deck to where you'll find the second one, and then you'll find the third one really quickly, and then you just like end the game in the course of a couple of turns, like doing that effect on your turn and their turn. And then your backup plans like Storm Chaser's Talent, Boomerang, synergy stuff, and it's a lot of cards. It has a lot of card advantage. It can once it gets going, it's kind of hard to stop. But then we also have like the blue-black mid-range deck. It's still typical, like kind of like acts as like a aggro deck that has some flash capabilities. Has some payoffs there when you some play Cecil, play the Spy, and then you play the Merfolk, the taps dudes, gives stun stuff around. Play Kaido, get to play the cat at your.
It's a Kaido deck.
Yeah,
it's mostly a Kaido deck, right?
Basically, yeah. So you get to do a lot of really cool things. You get a lot of value. You can play it like a flash plan. And you also get really clean removal. And then the Jeskai control deck. There's a lot of iterations of it I've been seeing. There's some that I saw for a little while. You saw the 4-color versions for a little bit, but now it's just like Jeskai, where basically it uses the Regent as a win condition. Some of them play the I think it's the 4-drop
Revelation.
It plays Revelation, and it plays the creature that you get to cast spells for 3 or less from your graveyard too.
Chico shows up a little bit. Yeah.
So those are the main ones I see. But you basically play like Lightning Helix, consult the star charts, counterspell package. It's pretty typical.
Pretty traditional control deck, I would say.
There's always a control deck somewhere in the format, and that pretty much seals it up right there.
Oh, yeah.
Those 3 decks really, unlike the unfair decks, which are very linear, they're trying to do their thing, they're trying to get you dead, they have backup plans or whatever. These 3 decks, the plan is very fluid. You are just trying to interact enough, nickel and dime your opponent, generate small advantages, and then win with the accumulated sum of your small advantages, right? You're often winning kind of barely, right? For all 3 of these decks, you need your pieces to interact at the right time. When the blue-black mid-range deck draws removal spells against a deck where the removal spells don't matter, you lose. When you don't draw removal spells against the decks where they do matter, you lose, right? But if you line up correctly, you can beat anybody. That's kind of the premise of the blue-black deck. And you leverage Kaido and the Enduring Curiosity to generate the cards so that when you do get the cards that don't matter, it doesn't matter because you've drawn so many cards, right? I think the lessons and the the Jeskai control deck are a little different. They're both control decks fundamentally. The blue-red lessons is playing removal spells, card draw, and win conditions. That's it. It's a really boxy list. But when you don't draw the monument, or you only draw one monument, or your monuments are interacted with, you actually have a very limited amount of damage. Like you can't kill someone if your monuments are being either shy or being interacted with. And in both scenarios, you feel really helpless. The flip of that is when you do have the multiple monuments down and you're churning, you feel kind of unbeatable. You see your whole deck, you'll see every removal spell, you'll see every counter spell, but you don't have the way to squeeze out a game the way the Jeskai control deck can. The Jeskai control deck can get to a board state where you just can't do anything. 3 steps ahead, card draw, removal.
It felt like a lot of times I was playing the lessons deck too. It's like kind of like you're saying, it's like you just don't have a real good plan B. Like you could stall with like this with Storm Chasers like boomerangs, but like that that's also very disrupted by like for a while there were decks that were remaining Soul Guide Lantern, right? And like even that like at the right time like kind of stops your your wisdom like drawing 3 cards and then you just lose.
If your wisdoms anticipate, it's bad.
You're gonna have a bad time.
When it's recall, it's the best card. Like it's incredible.
Right. And even with like the control decks, like I was playing them for a little while, and it felt like I never realized like how much of like the wrong half problem with some of these
Yes.
fair decks. Like it is more evident that like you even it's like you have to like even sometimes just like I hate it how like you just mulligan like just good hands, right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
but also they feel like some of your hands feel like you're just 5-card hands anyway.
Yeah.
It's just that's
It's
the
very
issue.
unfortunate. If you're on the draw and you're playing the Jeskai control deck, like the upside of the Lessons deck is draw or play, you always have interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you have this weird kind of like cap to your damage, and you can't fully lock a game out the way the Jeskai control deck can, the Jeskai control deck does nothing on turn 1 often. And so if you're on the draw and your opponent just goes elf, and then you go tap land as the control player, and they go Badger Mole Cub into Badger Mole Cub or Badger Mole into second Dork or whatever, it's like your interaction's too slow, you're too late. You have to counter that Cub, but you can't because you're on the draw, right? And so it's this weird kind of push and pull between the two decks where the blue-white red control deck is just better at really strangling a game out, but the blue-red Lessons deck just sees more cards and interacts faster, right? But again, you have to be doing both things to deal with these incredibly powerful combo decks, because if you're interacting the whole time against UG or a Boroid deck, and then they just start resolving Riddlers, you're in a tough spot, right? Like the Riddlers can draw them so many cards.
It kind of segues a little bit into like the fringe fair deck, like the looting or the prowess is it versions, right? Where I feel like they both try to like in a sense like have the aspects of like, okay, I have a really like they try to have an end game like the Jeskai deck does, but also have some of the interactive, but it's also very like glass cannony. Like if you miss like one of those because they're so centered on like Riddler, I felt like those games where I don't have Riddler, like okay, like right, you rely on that so much, or rely on like my 1-of Siege. Like I need to line up to where I find my 1-of Siege, build this hand, and just like go all out, right? So I feel like that deck kind of tries to do an in between of the Jeskai and the looting deck, not the looting deck, the Lessons deck.
The Lessons deck, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these fringe decks that are kind of tweener decks, right? Where looting, it's like a worse Lessons deck. It's also like a worse control deck, but it's doing something in between. So if your interaction lines up properly, you can be better than both those decks.
Right.
You just need it to line up, right? It's also true for the Esper self-bounce decks. You see those running around that are like talent decks, Sun Pearl Kirins, things like that. It's kind of a tweener deck where you're trying to do an unfair thing, but it doesn't just end the game. So it's not really an unfair deck. It's a fair deck fundamentally. And then Allies is just like an aggro deck. And then the last of the fringe decks I say is the red decks that are just trying to burn you out or resolve some creatures and then go over the top. But those can be built both fair and unfair. I believe Leyline of Resonance is still in the form of the red Leyline that doubles things when you target. If you have the perfect hand with that deck, you have like lethals on turn very quickly, which is just fundamentally an unfair thing. If you don't,
can you still win on turn 2 with that card?
I assume so if you have enough of them, right? Like you just play a hired claw on one.
I remember my teammate
3 Leylines, boom, 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 right? Like
I remember in a team tournament, what was it, earlier last year, like my standard person was like, I'm playing this deck, and they had like a couple turn 2 wins, or they just never won at all.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's kind of how those decks play. There's also the fairer red deck, which is just trying to curve 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, burn spells for reach. That's
just
it,
your
right?
typical mono red aggro deck. Yeah, they'll always be there.
Yeah, and they kind of leverage the power of they're kind of a meta call because they leverage the power of the Needlehead, the Scalding Viper, and the lizard, the Magebane lizard.
Yeah,
which are all really good against Lessons specifically, right? So you can tune your deck to just have 12 2-drop hate pieces for Lessons and just try to overwhelm the removal, and they just kind of can't do anything.
Then you
the
have
flip of that is if they have it, you lose, right?
Right. But then you also have the Boros version too, right? Where it's like more of a slick shot one with like Boros Charm and Helix. Where like I've also seen it where like I was testing that for fun for like because I was like, oh, I get to play Boros Charm in standard, and like there was a couple times where like I went slick shot, spell, double strike, the slick shot, and just won out of nowhere that I was so far behind, right? So like it's that deck was actually I thought was pretty interesting, and I think what was it? One of our teammates was playing at RCQs recently and had a decent run with it. Like it, I wonder how that deck's right. It's got some explosive power. I mean, slick shot's still a real card.
It really popped off when the Ouroboros decks were taking over because Slickshot just doesn't care about what the Ouroboros decks are doing. And the Ouroboros decks aren't playing interaction. They're almost entirely like creature loops. But now that the Ouroboros decks have become more Craterhoof decks, they can just blow you out before you even do your Slickshot thing. Right? The fact that the green decks are doing 27 damage on turn 3 is crazy. Like, it's crazy, right? The Slick Shot can't keep pace. The flip of that, though, is you can always Burst Lightning their elf and delay them for 2 turns even, and then you can win with your Slick Shot too. So those decks are all still good. Those are all the kind of, that's the framework of the format going into Lorwyn. And we have Portland coming up, the RC in Portland, the weekend of of Lorwyn's release. So we have to kind of evaluate the cards in the context of this new format without very much time actually playing it. I mean, we've known the cards for the whole list for not even really 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is speculation. And so we'll be evaluating these cards and how they fit into existing archetypes. But realistically, the best way to evaluate new cards is to build decks from the ground up. Even if you're still saying, I want to play this in Reanimator, don't just slot it in. Build a totally new deck around the new cards, because the new cards will change how you fundamentally view the deck. And we'll see that with some of the cards going forward. And then specifically, their cards kind of break into 2 parts. Build-arounds, powerful effects that either warp archetypes or define new archetypes, and then utility cards that are just like usually interaction, mana, card draw, generic effects that are just better or situational for the environment. Right? So we get to get to the most important cards of Lorwyn. Johnny, if you want to, this is the easy one, right?
Yeah.
These cards will change the format.
Right. I mean, whenever you, I mean, as history repeats itself, and I'm sure it will again, and whenever you have access to every shock land, and not to mention like you have, every surveil land,
And Verges.
like the mana is really good right now. It's great mana. So I wouldn't be surprised that there's probably something that might show up at Portland that none of us will expect, right? Because we have almost a perfect mana, if not maybe perfect mana, right? There could be some things that pop up now because now you're like, you have the mana to do what you want. Just figure out like what are the cards, right? So that's the cool thing is whenever you have access to all this mana, usually we say when it's a Ravnica standard, like there is multiple like 12, there could be up to 12 to 16 like decks you can play in standard that are viable and could top 8 a tournament with. So definitely
all the way from monocolor to 4 or 5 color garbage. Like it's all doable.
So we'll find out more, leading into the weekend. Like there could be a couple surprises that will catch people's eyes, and then that's so pretty excited.
And if you look at,
go ahead.
Yeah, and one thing that's not here that we didn't put here, we have Cavern of Souls 2 and multiple 5-mana lands that are specific to creature types. And Lorwyn is a creature type set, right? We're getting goblins, elves, Kithkin, all this kind of jazz. So mana is super perfect right now in standard and getting a little crazy. But so still on the shotguns though, if you go through the list of the decks we just discussed, almost all of them didn't have their appropriate shockland. The Airbend combo deck is a 3-color deck that didn't have Temple Garden or Hollowed Fountain. And its biggest problem was it couldn't generate the mana colors for the card. So that deck is getting a huge boost, even if the only benefit are these lands.
Because the combo
cards are white. That's how busted they are. They're white, blue, and you need green. You need all of them, right? And so being in these colors, you finally have the correct appropriate shocks, which means you can play 12 shocks, 6 Verges, a Surveil land, whatever, and have like really, really, really good mana, even in a 3-color deck. Yeah. You look at Lessons, that's a blue-red deck. It didn't have Steam Vents. Right? Now it has Steam Vents. We're relying on Multiversal Passage and Starting Town. Now you get to get an extra shockland, which is insane, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bayfong combo deck didn't have Overgrown Tomb, right? The GX landfall decks were mostly mono green, but now you could be green-white with this Temple Garden, green-black with Overgrown Tomb, right? The Reanimator deck, I tested that deck a lot in the last season, and the way games almost always played out, I won one game overwhelmingly because it's so powerful. I lost one game to my opponent's hate pieces because it can be hated out. And then I lost one game to my mana. This happened so often. But now that we have Overgrown Tomb, and the mana requirements might be a little less because of the card we're about to talk about, I just think this is the game changer. All of these decks get way stronger, even if they don't get cards from Lorwyn, just on mana alone.
So one question I got for you, V, is do you think mana bases are too good now? Because like that's kind of the downside of running these 4 or 5 color decks is like your mana base is supposed to be worse, but if we have everything so perfect right now, do you think it's too good?
Yeah, I mean, if the gameplay is good, I don't care, right? Like that's really the reality of it, But with standard having so many sets, I mean, we have 3 years of sets now. I think this year's gonna have 7 sets in it, which means we'll probably have a standard format at some point in the next year that has 21 sets. I mean,
that's crazy.
It's ridiculous. Your mana is going to be good. It just is. No matter what lands they print, it's going to be good mana. And I will say, I haven't played much Pioneer, but from looking at some of the Pioneer decks, Standard and Pioneer have never been closer. Like a lot of these Pioneer decks are just standard decks with a couple extra cards. You know what I mean? And so standard is crazy powerful right now. I like doing powerful things. Mana is really good, but the Shocklands are some of the best mana ever designed because yes, they make mana very good at the cost of life. So you are playing a dangerous game if you're playing 12 Shocklands. You might start the game at 14, realistically. And if that's the case, these burn decks, these kind of nickel and dime blue-black tempo decks, they might just get you, right? So yeah, mana's too good, probably. But if the gameplay patterns are just as good, I don't know if I care.
Great
Well, that's fair.
equalizer, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. All right, so let's start talking about these. This is probably, I don't know, one of the more hyped sets and cards in the set. It was spoiled quite a bit ago. It's very powerful. Formidable Speaker, 2/4 body for 3, pitch a card, tutor a creature, and then it has this pay 1 untap target permanent. I've been asked a lot. I'm going to be playing green Ouroboros in Portland. I have a lot of reps with it. I think the deck is very good. I like being able to pressure a turn 3 kill linearly and then have the backup plans of being more kind of mid-rangey. Quantum Midland Ouroboros, very good. This has been recommended to me by a lot of people, and I really don't think it is good in this deck. I think this card, if you're not using 2 of the 3 parts of it, then it's not going to be good enough. Like the Reanimator deck will use this. This card is incredible for the Reanimator deck. On curve, being able to play this on 3, pitch your reanimation target, go get Superior Spider-Man, and then slam Superior Spider-Man on a 4 to do your really busted thing is incredibly powerful. But it uses the discard. I don't think the Avatar combo decks are going to want this because it doesn't use a discard. I don't think the Ouroboros deck or the Landfall decks are going to want this because it doesn't use the discard. Beifong combo probably likes it. If you pitch Bloodghast to this and then go get Beifong's bodyguards, pretty sweet. Like, right? So if the discard is relevant for you, this card could be very powerful. I think it's being a little bit overhyped because it is very powerful. I don't know where else you could see play outside of maybe Beifong or Reanimator, unless you're building a totally novel deck. And I will say, this is an elf, and we do have some cards that are Gaia's Cradle equivalents or similar. So this could create an explosive amount of mana. This is the third part of it, kind of the forgotten text. If you have a Badgermole Cub, this acts as a mana dork. If you have 2 Badgermole Cubs, this is a mana dork that makes 2 mana, right? Because you just tap a mana, tap it, untap your land. The land retaps for 3 mana, 2 mana, 4 mana, whatever. So there is value to it in that sense. But for me, if you're not using the discard, it's not that great. If you are using the discard, it is potentially busted, right? I think there's a huge delta in power level of this card. I just don't recommend it in a fair deck. If this is a tutor for you, you got Analyze the Pollen in the format. You have Nature's Rhythm on the format. There's better ways to tutor bodies.
Yeah, I think the only other aspect I liked about it was that I liked it's the 2/4 on it as well for like some of the aggro decks that might come out, right? Like it could also, like, why I liked it was thinking about it with the bringer deck was like, okay, like sometimes I just need to play something to survive, like just to like hold off, right? Doesn't affect and maybe can just hold up combat, buy me a turn. And I also think, like you said, like the elf part, I think is huge as well. So I think I'm really excited to see what comes with this card.
I think this card is very powerful, but be conscious when you play it. Like you got to use the whole card, right? It can't be a 3 mana card neutral tutor. Like that's just not good enough. Nobody's playing Grim Tutor. Nobody is.
Right.
Even though this is obviously better, it doesn't lose you life, whatever. But still.
I mean, hey, it can mana fix you, right? You could just spend a generic to get that other.
True.
Yeah. So we'll see.
I do like the card though. I think it's very good. I think the Reanimator decks are going to love this card. Reanimator's getting a crazy boost in this format. I think we're about to talk about the next ones, which are the Evoke Elementals, which are all pretty insane.
Yeah.
So these are interesting because they read very powerfully, but the abusability of the Evoke mechanic, which is we've seen it with Solitude, Fury, Grief, all these cards in Modern, multiple of which are banned because they're so abusable. These cards are much less abusable. The design here, I think, is really good. They're functionally triple mode, or realistically like 5 mode cards, where you either pay green to evoke it. Let's use Wistfulness example. You pay green and you get an effect, or blue to get an effect, but the creature then goes to the yard. In Wistfulness case, it's blue to draw 2, discard 1. That's pretty fine. That's Chart a Course. We've played that card. The upside of it being a creature matters too, so it's actually probably a little better than Chart a Course in the current metagame. Or you play green, and it's enchantment and artifact removal. That's a fine split card. If you play the full cost, 5 mana, you get a 6/5 that does both things. That's a really powerful card. But the abusability of it, where you ephemerate it or flicker it or bounce it, on the creature's return, you just don't get the effects again because you didn't put the mana into it, right? But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you get to draw 2, discard 1, and flicker it, you still end up with a 6/5 on turn 3. It's not bad.
Seems pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's probably a little small ball for the standard though, which is kind of the point of all these unfair decks doing way bigger things on 3 than that, right? So you really have to evaluate the split mode of these cards. And Johnny and I were just talking about Wistfulness and Deceit in the Reanimator deck. Both of these cards, I think, are incredible in that deck.
Especially because Wistfulness like takes care of like a lot of the problem, right? Because it's and honestly, I think it can make the main in some ways, right? Because it's it could also loop.
Well, I think it is the main. I think 100% it's the main. Yeah.
I don't know how many copies it is, but like I think there's definitely 4 copies in the 75 somewhere. You'd go 4 main.
4 in the main.
You go 4
100%.
main. Yeah, I mean
it's just better than the Spider. Like we're playing the Golgari Spider right now that surveils 2.
No, I think that card's trash.
1-for-1 swap into this, and your deck's probably better, right? Now again, we should build the deck from the ground up. We shouldn't be just 1-for-1 swapping, but the reality is this card's incredible, right?
Yeah,
I mean, because like you said, it deals with problems.
It deals with problems, and it also can just like fix your hand, right? Like I have no problem just being like, okay, chart a course, and it's like you go with the Spider. Sometimes I'm like, cool, I have a 2/3 that doesn't really do anything. Like even the surveil thing, I'm like, I can't surveil these cards because the problem is a lot of it is I want to pitch stuff. I want to fix my hand. I don't care about like what's coming on
lands.
Top. Right, exactly. Yeah. And then and then just going over to Deceit, like that. I mean, it also can be more proactive, right? Let's get the hate card. Or, also just buys you time, right? Just bounces stuff. It just interacts.
Yeah. Both Wistfulness and Deceit deal with the things that stop you from doing your combo.
Right.
If they have Rest in Peace or Soul Guide Lantern in play, you can pay green for Wistfulness or blue for Deceit, or like you said, black, get out of their hand before they even deploy it. These are powerful effects.
And Superior Spider-Man with Deceit, right? And sometimes you could just cast a mini Deceit. You could just be like, okay, like I just need to do something, like. Because sometimes
explain that one.
So because you put if you put blue and black into Superior Spider-Man and you want it to copy Deceit, it becomes like a 4/4 Deceit with both of those abilities. So sometimes you find with the deck, right? Sometimes I found this a lot while I was using Deep Cavern Bat post board, right? Is that sometimes I would mill the bat and then I just want a 4/4 lifelinking flying bat to just kind of like apply pressure that way. So sometimes you're also giving yourself a lot of plan Bs with the deck, right? Where it's like, okay, now I have a pretty sizable Deceit. I could play tempo with something. I can discard something. You could also, stack it to where, you could also bounce their permanent and make them discard it, right? Yep. So you can do a lot of powerful stuff with it. Like it's...
That's
do
you get to choose point. How it stacks, or is it...
No, it goes top to bottom. So you bounce first, then you Thoughtseize. This is permanent removal for Dimir. Like even independent of the Spider-Man, independent of the Reanimator deck, if you pay the full cost on this, you get blue, black, you can bounce any permanent, that's not a land, and then discard it. This is a Dimir way to get enchantments and artifacts off the battlefield. That's very rare. That doesn't exist very much, right? And then on top of it, you get a 5/5, which is good. Like that's just a powerful card, right? So this might see play even beyond the Reanimator deck, where it just is a fine interactive piece for the Dimir archetype. The problem is the evoke mode on this, the blue to bounce a thing, or black to Thoughtseize, the more mana you tack onto those abilities, they just get significantly worse, right? Thoughtseizing for 2 mana is not great, unless you're trying to protect a very specific thing, which I think the Reanimator deck does. So I don't really expect Deceit to see play outside of a Superior Spider-Man angle, but it is really good as Superior Spider-Man, even to the point where I've been testing out a blue-black Reanimator deck to try to play with a little better mana. This is a great card for that kind of archetype.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. So and then Wistfulness being able to just pop a Rest in Peace, then continue combo, and then put itself in the yard to be reanimated later. That's great. Yeah. For it to be able to chart a course. If you do the comparison of Wistfulness to the Bookworm right now, the Bookworm's a 2/3 for 2 that at your end step you loot. By turn 4, your Bookworm will have looted you twice, drawn you 2 cards, and then allowed you to discard 2. Wistfulness on 2 for 2 mana immediately draws you 2 and discards 1, and puts it in the yard. So it gives you the same depth of search as the Bookworm. It's not a continuous thing. There are other downsides to it, but the upside of having the enchantment artifact removal, and then just the I'm going to Superior Spider-Man for blue, black 1, get a Wistfulness to loot to keep going through my deck. It's a pretty powerful, fair game plan. And 5 is castable. You can just... A 5 mana 6/5 when they're playing a bunch of graveyard hate is a way to kill someone.
Because sometimes also like those games go long, right? So like now
Very
you just
long.
get some like good bodies to like. So sometimes like what I'd find with the deck, right, is like I don't want to be just like, okay, I'm casting 2/2 drops on turn 5. Whereas like if I play Wistfulness, I'm like, okay, like you got to deal with this. Like I'm replacing itself, and you got to deal with it. Sometimes I'm gonna remove something. Even to see like in that spot, right, could be like I'm going to clean up something and now deal with this 5/5. Like you
Yeah.
could kind of play more of a better plan B, I think, for sure, with both of these than you could before.
I agree. And you bring up a good point with the bat. Deceit being like a bat replacement. Maybe it's not a main deck, maybe it's a sideboard, whatever. If you just go blue, I'm going to Thoughtseize you, whatever. You never get it back, thank God. But it just sitting in the yard for you to Spider-Man back later is a way to play a fair game. Because one of the worst feelings of this of the Reanimator deck is when you go for Spider-Man and they Tidebinder your trigger, so you don't get the Bringer effect, or they Tidebinder the Arden reanimation trigger, whatever. If you want to Tidebinder the Deceit trigger, you got to choose one. You either Tidebinder the Bounce or the Thoughtseize. You don't Tidebinder both because they're two separate triggers. And this is just a way to push through traditional hate pieces for the deck. I think it's really good as a secondary game plan alongside Wistfulness, which makes it very interesting to build. So we've already talked about 3 cards in the set that are all going to impact the Reanimator deck. It should be interesting to see.
Yeah.
The builds have to be totally new. I don't think we can go with like, okay, just replace cards here and there. I think you got to build from the ground up.
Yeah,
personally.
I do too. Let's
So we could briefly talk about the other ones because the other ones don't really have homes, right? I think the more interesting one is Catharsis, the white red one. For white, you get 2 1/1s. It's pretty okay. In fact, it's a raise the alarm effect. We have a couple of those in standard already. I think we have one. It's the ally one. And then for red, you get +1/+1 and haste to everything. That's kind of like Imidane's Recruiter. So this is a split card, raise the alarm, Imidane's Recruiter. We still have Warden of the Inner Sky. We still have Novice Inspector. We still have things like War Leaders. The 3-drop enchantment that gives +1/+1 and pings whenever a creature enters.
Oh, yeah.
We have Voice of Victory. This card can rebuild a Convoke Shell, sort of, right? And the craziest part about this is if you cast it full price, 6 mana, it puts 2 1/1s into play. Itself is a 3/4, and everything gets +1/+1 in haste.
8 damage.
Totally empty board. It's just 8 damage, right? Like on a totally empty board. One other creature +2 minimum, right? You can really end a game like this, and having a Raise the Alarm, Imidane's Recruiter split card, it's a little worse on both axes because it's not instant speed for Raise the Alarm, and it's not, you don't get the 2/3 body for the Imidane, but that's a good card. So I think Catharsis will have people. I think it's worth trying. I don't know how good that archetype is. Kind of folds to the same things that the Cub decks fold to, just a slew of removal spells. But
with perfect
you make 2
mana,
bodies.
with almost perfect mana right now, like I said, like a lot of these strategies, because like I was actually thinking about emptiness a little bit. The only reason I think of emptiness is like on Arena, sometimes I go against these like white Reanimator decks where they're just like they play all those like value 2/2 drops type things or whatever, and then they play that 4 mana spell that brings back all the 2/drops. I'm trying to remember
it's like a Return to the Ranks type card.
Yeah. So like I was thinking like because the past year I've been randomly against on Arena, I'll see those shells and sometimes I will lose the game to that. I will just lose to it in best of 3, and sometimes so like I'm not saying that this is going to make this deck more prominent, right? But it's kind of like it kind of fills a niche role in that deck, right? Because it kind of
Raise the past.
Right. It reanimates something and it also acts as removal. So I think it's I like a lot of what it does. I just don't know if emptiness will maybe have a home yet. Maybe that deck will kind of come back for a couple weeks just to try out emptiness. Maybe it won't. But
it's kind of funny. I thought that was the worst one, but that's a good point. The Raise the Past decks are real, right? And if you can bring back your Sack Outlet or your Blood Artist or your Graveyard Filler, that's not that bad. And then the upside of this also being your removal spell, having the split card of like this fits my game plan, but also deals with something if I have to. If you need to kill a bat or a cub, that's pretty nice. It's not bad.
It also triggers like the the evoke trigger, right? Can also like get you some value.
It dies.
Right. So
it dies. Yeah.
So I kind of
can sack it to Umbral Color Zealot. You get the Vengeful Blood Witch triggers. Yeah, that's legit.
Yeah. So I think there could be something to it. Maybe that's me reaching, but like I just kept thinking like every time I've seen it, I'm like I wonder if those decks will come back even more on Arena.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
People like playing the aristocrat style of deck,
Oh,
and
yeah.
this is that.
It's
right?
those are just so much fun, right? Like it's cool just to make a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff and then just sack it all to drain you. Like it's who doesn't like doing that?
Yeah. And then you have Vibrance. I don't know where Vibrance goes, really, but I will say the red mode on Vibrance is 3 damage to any target. It's Lightning Strike. That is just a good
Not bad.
card, right?
Yeah.
There's a version of a red deck, I'm sure, that is just full burn. Boros Charm, Lightning Helix, Lightning Strike, Burst Lightning, burn that goes face. Maybe you play 10, 12 creatures, whatever, that pair with it, and then you just try to Vibrance them out of the game. It's not bad. If you do pay the 5 mana for this, a 4/4 that also blasts for 3 is kind of sick. So fully ignoring the green mode on this, the red mode might be enough to make this see play somewhere. I just don't know what lands you really want to fetch, so I don't know if there's a red-green land deck that this can really utilize.
I'm sure there is probably. I mean, something I was actually going to look at when I get more time to start brewing, because I looked at Vibrance and all I could think about. Okay, we got perfect mana. One of my favorite decks. That people always. People forget that I love a good Gruul deck. I just love Gruul beats, and I was looking at this card. I'm like, okay, maybe there is something. Like maybe not right now, but in the future, I'm for sure that this card will probably have a home somewhere. Because like you said, just like just being able to just like incinerate, I guess Lightning Strike, sorry, not incinerate, two different cards, but Lightning Strike at the
Kind of the
worst,
same.
right? I mean, it's Lightning Strike, or later it's a 4/4 with Lightning Strike. It's
I just think it's fine to evaluate this card as a red card. You don't need the green part at all.
mm-mm.
I think if a Gruul deck pops up that wants a removal spell, if you're playing Cub and you want a Lightning Strike, this might be the best version. You just have the Lightning Strike when you want it, and then when you have 5 mana, it's a super Lightning Strike, right? Like it's a Lightning Strike plus a 4/4.
It just goes into mono red.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It can just be a
Right.
mono red card. It's fine. It's fine,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. It's an interesting card.
I think it will have a home no matter what.
Yeah, I think all of these will have a home. I just think they're not abusable in the way that the incarnation elementals are that we know of from Modern, and people are evaluating them kind of like they are, and maybe we shouldn't. But
I think the main thing is like these you have to still pay for. The ones in Modern are free. And
they're turn one plays.
Yeah,
turn one
so
plays.
I think that's why people think it's like, oh, elementals evoke, but it's like they're not the same because of that reason.
Yeah, but they don't have to be. Standard is a much lower power level than Modern. Despite us talking about how powerful it is, Modern is an absurd format at the moment.
We might find out these are busted for Standard. We might be like, wow.
Yeah, they might be. Yeah, they might be. But I think they're fine. I think they're fair. They're really just modal cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's how all of these read to me. It's a tri-mode card. Either it's mode 1, mode 2, or then you've got this buyout mode of here's my big body attached to these 2 cool abilities. Seems cool. Okay, I hate these cards. Good.
These have gotten a lot of hype so far, especially.
There's a lot of hype on both of these.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions.
Neither of these are for Standard. I will say I've gotten more and more hyped on Moonshadow as I've thought about it, but Hexing Squelcher is not for this format. The spells can't be countered. It would take a very warped format where counter spells are very, 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 very good for this card to be good. And it is important to note we are getting Spell Snare, so counter spells are getting better, right? At most, I'm seeing Hexing Squelcher as a sideboard in a red deck. Mm-hmm. You're against a control deck. You don't want to die to their counter spells. Great. The reality is, in game 2, they're taking out most of their counter spells. They're not going to keep 3 steps ahead. At most, they're maybe leaving in some No More Lies. Realistically, they're probably just leaving in Spell Snare. And then you're putting in a 2/2 for 2. There's way better cards, right? Scalding Viper's better, even not by much, but it's a little better. Razorkin Needlehead's definitely better. Emberheart Challenger's way better. I just don't see this making the red drop 2-drop rotation. I get that other creatures have Ward 2, but in red, you're just putting a bunch of 2/2s together. They'll just kill this first, go to the next. It is nice that it kind of has the Eidolon of Great Revel text, where if they do interact with it, it at least did some damage. Mm-hmm. It seems very mid. I don't think this card's going to see play outside of a very counterspell heavy metagame. Or I guess if your red deck is just all 2-drops, in which case you need to play around Spell Snare. This does let you do that. I just really don't like it. I know CDH loves it. Take it. It's for you. Take my copies, please.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's too much hype. Maybe I'll get them when they're $1 eventually, but right,
I think the CDH players might keep it higher than $1.
Yeah, I know.
It is very good in that format. That's the thing. But Moonshadow's wild and Modern, right? Because you're like fetch land, Street Wraith. It's so easy to take counters off in Modern. It's just happens by accident. Standard doesn't have this.
I think I was thinking a lot with the old Grixis Death Shadow decks. This kind of but the only issue with this card though, at the same time though, is I feel like if you're not casting this like on turn 1 or 2, like you're gonna lose because those decks play 12 fetches, 4 baubles, and 4 street wraith, right? And
Yeah.
then in some matchups you're cutting wraith out, so now you're down to less
Yeah, yeah.
ways. And then also like if you don't get this
Horrific top deck.
right, it is the worst thing you ever want to see later in the game.
Yeah. But and in Standard, we don't even have those tools. So the only context where I can think this card is relevant is Standard does have some fetch lands. We have Fabled Passage kind of effect. And there is a landfall deck built around it that plays Saw's Chocobo, right? Saw's Chocobo is a 0/1, landfall gets a counter. If you play this on 1 or Chocobo on 1, and then turn 2 you play a fetch land, this becomes a 2/2 menace, the Chocobo becomes a 2/3. Those are comparable cards. The problem is the Chocobo can exponentially get bigger. This caps out at 7. So then it's a question, do you want the menace on this card, right? There's maybe a green-black landfall deck that might want it as Chocobo's 5/6. I don't really know. I will say there is some corner cases where this is very valuable that have got me actually kind of excited about it for Standard. If the -1/-1 counters are abusable, like you have a card that wants you to remove counters from things, this could be really good because it just comes with 6 counters to remove, right? And there is a card in this set. It's an elf. It's a 1-drop. We'll talk about it when we get to it. That says you may remove 3 counters from a permanent you control and cast a card from your graveyard, a creature card. Moonshadow brings you 2 activations of that card for free. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's really good in that sense. And then if you can somehow copy it without a true clone, you get a 7/7 menace, right? So like if there's a creature that's on the battlefield that can become a copy of something, a la Likeness Looter. Likeness Looter is a card from Wilds of Eldraine. It's a Dimir 1/1 looter, and you can pay X, where X is the mana value of a creature in your graveyard, and it will become a copy of that card. Except it keeps flying, I believe, and it keeps that ability or something like that. If you have a Moonshadow in your yard, a Likeness Looter in play, and you pay 1 mana, that Likeness Looter will become a 7/7 flying menace. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage, right? So I think the weird part about this card in Standard is you're not using it for the body. You're using it for the counters almost, right? Like or like you want it in your graveyard. You want to abuse it in some way that's not just here's my 1/1 menace that will get bigger as the game goes on. And it can't be that in Standard because we just don't have the fetch density, the Mishra's Baubles, the Street Wraiths or whatever. So this is my favorite card in the set. This card is such a little idiot. I don't know. I don't know how to describe this card other than it's my favorite.
It's like better Wood Elves.
Yeah. So this is the thing. It's a 3-mana ramp spell that comes with a Changeling. There is one of those in Standard already. We have Lumbering Worldwagon. It's a 3-mana vehicle that ramps you a land. This is similar, and that card sees play. This card might see play. The only way this card sees play, though, is if you can use the Changeling half of either the Mutavault that it makes. Mutavault's a busted card, let's be real. We're playing Soulstone Sanctuary. That card's 10 times worse than Mutavault. But if you can abuse the Changeling aspect of Mutavault or Mutable Explorer, this card might be really good. And there's a couple major payoffs, like Unholy Annex is one of them, right? This is a demon for Unholy Annex. That's great. There's what's the Sliver card from Edge of Eternities? There's a 6-mana card that has affinity for slivers, Sliver Hive Pool, and it makes 2 1/1 slivers on your upkeep. All your slivers get haste and double strike. That's super powerful if you have enough changelings. You might be able to build a full changeling deck. I put this card on the slide, but really there's actually like 4 or 5 2-drop changelings that are all horrific cards. They are not good, but they're changelings. And just because they're changelings, that Sliver card might be incredibly valuable, might be playable with this. Isn't there a card from LCI that wants you to like exile a pirate, a vampire, a dinosaur? What's it called?
I know what you're talking
Throne
about.
of the Grim Captain. So it's a 2-mana, tap at mill, craft with a dinosaur, merfolk, pirate, or vampire, and then it flips into an absolutely enormous 7/7 menace, trample, lifelink, hexproof. When it attacks, opponent sacks a non-land permanent. Then you may put one of the exiled cards you exiled to craft this onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. This card is a vampire. It is a merfolk. It is it's all the types, right? The Mutavault is also all the types. All your other random garbage changelings are all the types. Mox Jasper wants you to have dragons. These are dragons. Sarkin wants you to have dragons. These are dragons. I have no concept of what this deck looks like. I just know it's doable. and that's cool, and I'm gonna try it.
Yeah. Well, I think this even like you could just do some sort of like green black like rock deck, right? It's just off these 2 cards alone, right? Because you could just
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some big payoffs, right? Because even like I'm just excited. I love Golgari type stuff, so hopefully.
Yeah. This screams very fair to me,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that it ramps you, and there is a deck that wants land drops. It ramps you with lands, not with your mana abilities. That means something, and that card might have value there. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh yeah, I am really.
Oh man.
So I think I like Seer a lot. Very very clean removal, and just being able to just hit a planeswalker. I think it's an instant speed, which is I think
all 3 of these.
Yeah.
Every set has like a removal spell roulette. New cards come into the format. We try them. They're good. They're bad. Whatever. All 3 of these have the game plan. Have incredible power. Seer is awesome. If you're not worried about going face with your damage, this is better than Lightning Strike. There are plenty of red decks. I mean, it's even possible that, could this take Lightning Helix's place? It really depends on whether 4 is more important than 3. How many X4s are there in the format that you have to kill? And I will say, Ouroboros with 1 activation becomes a 2/4. So if you tap out for your stock up or whatever because you desperately need to hit a land, and they resolve Ouroboros, you're out of range of Lightning Helix, but you're not out of range of Seer. And that matters. That matters a lot.
And I think, that's a great point, and that's kind of what I was thinking about was exactly this Ouroboros, right? And then also like Spell Snare is going to be huge because there's a lot of really important twos in the format right now, right? Between like Artist Talent, Badger Mole Cub, to some removal, like the blue black deck wants to do stuff on 2. There's just so many good 2s that I could see. Like Spell Snare is going to be playable. Like
I mean, this is like the problem of the huge set standard. The more cards that come out, the lowering of the mana costs, right? Like your decks just get more efficient. They become very powerful. Every single deck in this format has a bunch of 2s, right? This counters pretty much all of the like high quality removal spells. Get Lost, Helix, Seer. It counters all those. It counters an enormous amount of the threats, right? Whether it's the whatever 2-drop you choose to make your looter for Reanimator deck. It counters the Badger Mole Cub, like you mentioned. It also counters all of the good card draw in this format, right? It counters Consult the Past, because that's a 2-drop, even if you kick it. It counters the Ancestral Knowledge, even if you paid 1 mana for it. It doesn't matter. It only cares about the mana value. And more importantly than anything, it lets your control decks on the draw deal with the Badger Mole absurdity. Like we mentioned earlier, if you're on the draw and they go Elf into Badger Mole into second Dork, your removal spell doesn't matter. Even if you have instant speed removal and you kill the first Badger Mole, they're just going to tap the Elf for 2 mana and then play another Dork. And you're just way behind, even the interaction. Countering it prevents them from doing that entirely. Spell Snare is huge for this format. I think it's kind of boring to say. I think this is the most powerful card in Eldraine for Standard. It sucks because there's so many cool cards that are much more interesting than this. I think Spell Snare is absurd.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment.
Yeah.
And just going to re-quitting Hex here. I mean, it's just it's a worse version of Fatal Push, but also like having the modal of being able to, like, if you need to gain 2 life, like against those these aggro decks, right, with like Ouroboros decks to the red decks, like getting 2 life's pretty important if you can get access to it, especially if you're just kind of putting stuff in front of bodies anyway, jumping around. So like there'll be value.
This card, there are 3 of these effects in Standard right now with this card. It's Stab, which is just -2/-2. This card is probably better than Stab, although Stab can get some 3-drops, so it's not strictly better. And then the other one is the Void spell from EOE, which gives -2/-2, or if you've triggered Void, it gives -10/-10.
Yep.
And this card, but that's a sorcery. This card's probably better than that as well, just on the virtue of it being an instant. And I will say the Blight, the gain 2 life is okay. Like you said, against red decks, it matters. But this format does so much more damage than 2. Like, you're not winning because you had 22 life, because the Ouroboros decks are hitting you for 50.
Right.
The infinite decks are just infiniting you, right? If they've got 2 monuments, your 2 life doesn't matter. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I will say the Blight 1, like the gain life can matter, and the Blight 1 can matter. If you just blight your Bloodghast, that 2 life is free. If you're in an Aristocrats deck, this is a weirdo sack outlet. Like, if you want to kill a creature that has a death effect, this does it.
Yep.
Right? It has utility well beyond what it says on the card, and I really like that. I think this card is really cool design. I think all 3 of these will see play in fairly large quantities, actually. And like I said, I think Spell Snare warps the format. I think Spell Slugger.
Yeah, I think Spell Snatch probably a 4 of in some decks, to be honest. It's so
I
powerful.
think so. Yeah. Oh man, Typal decks.
Speaking of blighting, Flitter Wing Nuisance is kind of an interesting card too.
Yeah.
Got to play with it in limited. It was kind of fun.
I think all 3 of these cards have play,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if they have play in a fairies archetype. This is kind of when I was looking through the set spoilers. There are not many cards that care about fairies. They just happen to be fairies, right? And so whether this shows up in like a fairy deck or these are just pieces for the blue-black mid-range deck to utilize, I don't know the answer to that question. But there are an incredible number of very good fairies between this set and Wilds of Eldraine. You now have another one. This Flitterwing Nuisance is pretty good. 1/1 flyer means you can Kaido it really easily, right? Similar to Spyglass Siren. Unlike Spyglass Siren, you don't get the map, which is the downside, right? Because the upside of this is putting mana into it. And if you have to put mana into it and then you're Kaidoing, you're kind of behind tempo-wise. But it is still another thing to Kaido. This is probably better than Cecil, right? I mean, Cecil's a death-touching 2/3. That's relevant.
I mean, Cecil also is bad against certain matchups, right?
Right. This can just be better than that. So I'm wondering if this will replace the 1-drop. I like Bitterbloom Bearer as a flash threat. I don't know if Bitter Blossom's good enough for this format, but a flash threat that can like mask your Flood Pits Drowner, mask your removal spell, mask your counter spell is pretty good. And if they don't deal with it right away, you at the very least start generating fairies. That matters, right?
I mean, they're all good to Kaido back to your hand. A 1/1 exchange for a Kaido.
It's not bad, right? Like you get your 1/1 and then you Kaido it. It's not that dissimilar from Flood Pits Drowner, where you're like, I stunned the thing and then I Kaidoed it, right? Like it's not crazy. And then the Guardian, the Glen Electra Guardian, I think is very nice too, in that it's a flash 3-drop, which again disguises a lot of cards in your deck. That then acts as this kind of negate on a stick. And if you're playing Requiting Hex that we just talked about, you can reuse this. You can put a double negate on a stick on this thing. It's a great blight target, right? And if you're utilizing the blight beyond the removal spell, you kind of have a pretty busted card, right? So
I feel like the Dimir deck.
I think all 3 of these are good.
No, I think the Dimir deck gets a lot of really cool toys, because I felt like when Dimir lost the 1 fairy Mastermind, right? I felt like that deck was like it really lost like a big part of the deck, right? Because Fairy Mastermind I thought was a big portion of it, and now like some of these other cards they get can kind of maybe help kind of fill that gap a little bit almost.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like stay on the fairies for a second because I think there's a lot to say about the fairies specifically. There's another fairy in this set called Glamour Gifter. It's a 2-drop flash flying 1/2, and when it ETBs, you turn a creature into a 4/4. That's all it is. And I was like, this is a limited card, whatever. It's not that good. I got blown out by this card pretty harsh in limited. And I was thinking about it. This card disguises Kaito better than anything I've ever seen. If you attack with a 1/1 into a body that can block it effectively, they then have to make the decision, do I block this because I'm afraid of them Kaitoing? Or do I not block this because I'm afraid of them turning it into a 4/4 and eating my creature? If you have both Kaido and Glamour Gifter in their hand, you put them in your hand, you put them into a catch-22. And Glamour Gifter is just a dumb little flash flying 1/2 that makes things into a 4/4. And then it itself can be Kaidoed. So I don't know. This card seems way better than the limited trash that I thought it was. So I don't know. I think all this, and then you pair this with, there are 2 fairy spells in Wilds of Eldraine that key off the number of fairies you have. You have Fairy Fencing, which is black X, give a creature -X/-X. But if you have a fairy, it gives them an additional -3/-3. If that's a 1 mana -3/-3, that's pretty good. There's also Spell Stutter, which is 2 mana, counter target spell unless your opponent pays 2. Increase that value by 1 for every fairy you control. That can be straight up counter spell. So there are some fairy payoffs. They're just not the payoffs we traditionally think about. They're the interactive payoffs. But at the end of the day, this is still just a Kaido deck, Enduring Curiosity deck. Maybe you put Feybloom Trick in here, which taps the thing and makes you 2 1/1 fairies. That card's really good with Enduring Curiosity, Kaido. It's still a Curiosity Kaido deck. It's still a blue-black mid-range deck. But if you replace all of the non-fairy stuff with these fairies, you might have a more like effective flash-style archetype where you just play entirely on their turn and you make it really hard for them to make decisions because depending on what you have in hand, you could completely blow them out. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is cool. It's just a different way to play the blue-black mid-range deck.
Kithkin.
Oof. Kithkin aggro.
How do we feel about Kithkin?
I like it. I think it's weird because this deck is almost entirely built off of Lorwyn. Like there's very few cards you get from other sets beyond like Mana Base and maybe some interactive spells. But the Kinsblade Aspirant and the Bristlebane Battler are both very powerful cards. I like the Aspirant. It's a 1-drop 2/1 as long as you behold a Kithkin, you'll have Kithkin, you're playing Kithkin. And then whenever another creature enters, it gets bigger. The Bristlebane Battler enters as a 1/1 trample ward 1, and then every time you play a creature at ETBs, you get to remove a counter. And I think these two cards in particular are kind of interesting because the format is full of like Pyroclasm effects to deal with Cub. A lot of these cards get blown out by a Pyroclasm. But the Bristlebane Battler and the Kinsbale Aspirant, you can make them big enough that it makes it hard for the red burn spells to deal with it. And the Battler gives you a second avenue for your go wide aggro deck, where you're like, hey, we're going wide, but this card's going to go tall. And so you can deal with my go wide, but I'm going to get my Battler big enough that you have to deal with that with a traditional removal spell. I don't know if I really see it because I don't think the Kinscar Sentry is very good. It's a 2/2 that has to attack to get a trigger. That's not great. Brigid is pretty good. It puts 2 bodies into play and can flip into a Gaia's Cradle. It for 3 mana, is that better than trying to do whatever the unfair decks are trying to do? I don't really know. And then the command is like kind of okay. Like I feel like the Kith can go wide will live and die by the strength of Bristlebane Battler. And if that's the only thing that it has going for it, I'm not convinced it has much. But you also have like Figure of Fable, the new Ajani. Ajani's another avenue. It just makes a Kithkin every turn. That's a pretty good counter Pyroclasm deck. You just try to go wide, blow them out with like a big pump spell at the end or like an Anthem. There's a champion Kithkin, I think also.
There's also
it's like a 4/5 or something that has flash.
I can't remember. I also know there's a 2-drop that might be okay too. The 2/1 that like, you know, gets you a land or gets you a Kithkin. Replace itself.
Oh yeah, the hybrid one.
Yeah, like
that card's good.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, that's a pretty solid card, right? It's because most of the time in these decks, it's gonna 2-for-1. It's a free 2-for-1. So
yeah.
So
yeah, here it is. It Champion of Klaken is a 4-mana 4/5 flash. You have to behold a Kithkin and exile it, which you could protect a Kithkin from a removal spell. Actually, kind of funnily. But then it gives all your Kithkin +1/+1. So it might push some of these outside of the Pyroclasm effect. Might actually be powerful enough. I don't know. This deck has a couple solid 1s, has a bunch of solid 2s, a very powerful 3, a 4, and then you surround that with Get Lost and effects like that. You're somewhere. Seam Rip, Get Lost, you know?
Oh yeah.
So you could go wide with this for sure. I think this deck is doable. It'll be tried for sure. I expect to see this on ladder, at least for the first couple weeks. I think it'll be cool.
Classic elves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same problem as Kithkin. You got to commit to the board, and board wipes hurt pretty bad. What I will say about the elves in this deck, though, in this set, they want to be using the graveyard, so it's a little different than your traditional elf ball. Just make as much mana as you can, resolve Craterhoof. I think you could still probably do that, but Lissalon Dignitary, the 2-drop that taps for 2 if you have an elf in the yard, is pretty good as long as you have an elf in the yard. So then the question is, can we get elves in the yard? I don't really know. Like, there's not really that many good ways to do that. I put the Dawn hand Dissident because it surveils, like it puts elves in the yards, it blights, maybe you can kill your elf. I put Bloom Tender, maybe you're in like a 3-color deck where you can Bloom 10 makes a ton of mana. We still have Elvish Archdruid from Foundations. It's a very good card. Anthem plus tap for number of mana for Gaia's Cradle for elves. We have Llanowar Elves, of course, but we don't have that second like really good mana generating 1-drop. Champion of the Perfect is really good though. A 6/6 draw card on creature cast is really good. High Perfect Morcant can really control a board state pretty aggressively. Maybe this is the top end. And then there's like a Sultai Elf as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. Like if you resolve this thing, it hurt. It can win you the game. So the win conditions are a little bit different than traditional elf decks. I don't think we can do the traditional elf deck thing without just getting completely washed by a board wipe. I think there's less ways to be completely washed by to avoid that in this deck than in Kithkin.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced, but I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I feel like if I was gonna play a creature type deck to the board, like I'd rather go Kithkin over elf if I had to choose between one or the other. But we'll see.
If you can maintain the board though and have a lot of mana between the champion and Marlin Fey Ascendant, you rip through your deck. You'll rip right through it. In a way that's kind of crazy. So when you win, you're gonna feel like godly. When you lose, you'll feel bad.
Goblin's got a couple cool cards though.
I'm hyped for Goblins.
Yeah.
I think this deck's legit. I think of all the decks all of the typo decks, I think Goblins is it. I think if it is good, it's because of these 4 cards, or some combination of these 4 cards.
100%.
We have a ton of Goblins. We have a lot of Goblins. In Standard right now, we have, I think, 4 legit 1-drop Goblins. I mean, we have the Burnout Bastronaut, which has already shown its power in the red decks. We have a Fanatical Firebrand, which is not that great of a card, right? But it taps and does 1 damage to things, and it wouldn't sack it, right? And this deck wants your goblins to die. You want your goblins to die in this deck so that you can get the triggers. It's more of an Aristocrats goblin deck than like a, old school Legacy Matron Ringleader deck, right? But you have Fanatical Firebrand, and that kills Llanowar Elf. That having Llanowar Elf removal in your 1-drop creature slot is pretty good. We have Stadium Headliner. It's a 1/1 that when it attacks you, mobilize, and then you can sack it to deal damage to things equal to the number of creatures. Another goblin that sacks itself. And I didn't put it on this slide, but I probably should have. There's a black 1-drop in this set. It's a 2/1 goblin. You have to behold a goblin, otherwise you have to pay 2. And when it dies, you destroy a creature with mana value 2 or less. So that's 3 of the 4 1-drop goblins that are good. All have removal spells attached to them in some way. That's pretty powerful, right? You then have the 2-drop goblins, where we do have Seer Slicer Goblin from Foundations, which is like a Goblin Rabble Master. Raid, when you attack at the end step, make a goblin. Makes you go wide. We have a real Rabble Master from Aether Drift, Howl Squad Heavy. Gives all your goblins haste. Beginning of combat, make a goblin, you attack with it. It has Start Your Engines, which your Bastronaut can start for you. You can Bastronaut on 1, begin Start Your Engines. By the time you cast Howl Squad Heavy, it can just tap for red mana equal to number of goblins. That's an enormous amount of mana, right? And the thing that ties this all together are these payoffs, right? Champion of the Weird, 4 mana 5/5. You have to behold and exile a goblin. It's not free. Remember with these behold cards that if they counter your spell, that card you exiled is just gone. So be careful with them. But if this resolves, you can pay 1 to blight 2 to force your opponent to put 2 -1/-1 counters on something. That's not a once per turn gated. You can do that indefinitely. If your board is bigger than your opponent's, you kill everything, right? And this thing's a 5/5. You can blight 2 this, and it lives. Blight 4 it, and your opponent will have to blight 4, and you can just wipe their board out. And the thing is, if this sticks around for the turn, it's basically a one-sided board wipe every single turn. You just deploy goblins, sack them, make your opponent sack their stuff. And you want to sack things because you're playing the Boggart Curse Catcher, which is a Zulaport Cutthroat. There's an enchantment that is a Kindred Goblin spell that has when a goblin dies, your opponent loses a life, you gain a life. And then it makes 2 goblins if you blight 1, or blight 2, I think. That's really powerful, right? Taster of Waves. I mean, read that. That card is crazy. Your opponent reveals cards from their hand, equal number of goblins you have. You take 1. Doesn't say non-land. You take 1, right? And unlike the normal effects, like the Severance Priest, the Deep Cavern Bats, the Kite Self Rebirth, they don't get it back when it dies. They get nothing when this card dies. And if it happens to be an instant or sorcery, you get to cast it. It's gross. This card is really gross, right? And then Grub's Command, I really like Grub's Command. The last mode specifically, the first 3 modes are kind of whatever, but the last mode specifically is Goblin Ringleader. Excuse me. Target player mills 5 cards, and then you put all goblins you milled into your hand. That's a Ringleader effect. It's very powerful. I really like this card. We're missing even Grub. The card itself, Grub, is a Gravedigger for a goblin. And then if you flip it, it blights your own stuff to copy it and attack. If you're copying Taster of Waves, I mean, I think there's real game. There's a lot of interaction in this deck. You have hand disruption, you have board disruption, you have this Aristocrats Reach package. I'm going to be building this, trying this. There's a good chance that this is one of the decks I'm testing out for Milwaukee afterwards. And your mana is perfect. You get Cavern of Souls, Secluded Courtyard, the new 5-color land, Blood Crypt, Verge. I mean, you can play whatever color goblins you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that's really all the decks. Everything that we've just talked about, these are all the decks that I think have a real shot. From here on out, I think these are just cool build-arounds, very powerful, that I think are lacking something. I don't know how good these elemental decks will be. If you're able to cast things with mana value 4 or greater that don't actually cost 4 mana, they might be very powerful. I think the elemental incarnations that we talked about at the top of this presentation are powerful with these cards specifically. We don't have a blue-red one. I don't know if that matters. We have plenty of blue ones. We have plenty of red ones, right? Vibrance is still castable in this color, right? Wistfulness is still castable. I don't know how many of these we have, though. But Ashling is powerful. If you get to flip this card every turn, you just make 2 mana that you use for high mana value things. It has like an up the beanstalks quality to it that I'm pretty impressed by, honestly. So
I agree. This is something I think is going to be really interesting.
Take it away. Show us. Tell us.
So I mean, with Meek Attack, pay 2 and put a creature with power toughness or 5 or less from your hand in the battlefield. So you get this Famished Worldshire. When it enters, you look at the top X cards of your library where the X is the creature's power and put any number of land cards from them into battlefield taps. You can be able to just like devour a bunch of lands as as it enters, right? So it kind of gets around it, right? So you have this huge body, and then you're just redeploying a bunch of lands. So especially if there's some landfall tricks out there, like I'm sure there could be some sort of value engine you could pull off with that, especially on like turn 4. You can kind of almost do like a scape shift type effect, which is really neat. And then with threefold, I mean, it's just value, right? You can just cheat that out there and just get a bunch of 1/1s, and so
it's Hornet Queen.
Yeah. So like I think
Yeah.
so this is pretty cool. You get some different avenues here.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and we do have redundancy for Meek Attack, which is really important when you have an effect like this. Because if you build your whole deck around Meek Attack and you never see Meek Attack, what are you doing? You're not hard casting Famished Worldshire or Threefold Thunderhulk. They're too expensive. But we have Tanic, which gives artifacts and red cards in your hand warp. Really only works with the Thunderhulk, but that's still something. And we have Nexus of Becoming from the OTJ bonus sheet, which lets you draw a card at the beginning of combat and put an artifact or creature from your hand. You exile it, and you make a 3/3 token copy. If you do that with either Worldshire or Thunderhulk, it's crazy value. I think there's something here. I think people will be trying it. I think it's cool. I think it's really, really cool. So.
All right.
Yeah, and then here's just like a slew of cards that are all pretty powerful. I mean, every single one of these cards has a powerful effect. There's no home for them at the moment. It might not be powerful enough. I personally like Oko as kind of like a pivot in the Simic decks. There's a chance that this is playable in the Ouroboros deck. You can kind of lock down an Ouroboros with Oko. If you -2 Ouroboros and it's a 2/4, it just doesn't put counters on things, right? And then you can flip it and just start making elks or whatever. And you can have, weirdly, an Oko on both sides. You can have it on the green side and the blue side on play. The downside is the green side doesn't generate loyalty, so it cannot go indefinitely. But I don't know. I think the card's powerful. Lockmare's strong. If Lockmare's really strong and limited, anything strong and limited, I'm willing to at least try in standard. The effect on Curious Colossus is really, really good. This might be like can you cheat this into play somehow and just turn your opponent's board into nothing? That's cool. And then Celestial Reunion is a Green Sun Zenith-esque ability for a creature type. And so maybe Elves wants this, right? We don't know what the Elf deck looks like. Maybe this is the payoff that they're looking for, where you can go get whatever big Elf off of all your mana that you really care about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kithkin can.
I think the big thing also about that one is it doesn't specify what color. It can be any color creature.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about with Kithkin, right? Because there's some green Kithkin. So like you might be able to just do something with that as well. So
yeah, I feel like if you're doing Green Sun Zenith, you either need to be a toolbox though, or you need to be getting a combo together in the way like Modern kind of uses it. And I don't know where that exists in Standard. It might not. We'll see.
For sure.
But it does get Avatar Aang. I don't know. All those cards are different creature types, though. I don't think that works.
That's fair.
I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of those cards are like just close enough, but not quite have a home yet. But who knows? With Portland coming up, people are going to be brewing like crazy.
I want to talk about one more card that I think is my favorite card from this set. Can we go back to the Elf side?
Okay, hold on.
Sorry. I know this is taking a while. I know. But there's just one card that I just really care about. It's my favorite card in the set and it has to be talked about. And I missed it when we were talking about the Elves.
I have to find it.
It'll be so quick. 5 minutes.
I got to find it.
Slide 9.
Right, I have to find the thing.
Okay. I'll start talking about it right now anyways. It's called Dawnhand Dissonant. It's a black 1 mana. It's a 1/2. You tap it and you blight 1, surveil 1. You can tap it to blight 2, exile target card from your graveyard. And during your turn, you may cast creature spells from among the cards you own and exile with this creature by removing 3 counters from creatures you control. Cards like Moon Shadow and Sleep Cursed Fae that comes with stun counters, you can just use their counters right away, which is awesome. Yeah, there it is, the black card, Dawnhand Dissonant. If you have a Moon Shadow, you can just use this to constantly bring back cards from your yard. It doesn't put finality counters on them, so if they die, you can bring them back. You can create some messed up loops with this, I'm sure. I'm going to be brewing like crazy with this, and Insidious Roots probably. If you do this, it fills your graveyard for roots. It exiles things out of your graveyard for roots. It lets you cast things out of your graveyard for roots. Roots gives you counters to remove so that you can use that thing's second ability. It can go insane. I want to play with this card in Roots. I want to build something that's like Moon Shadow, Sleep Cursed Fae, cards that just come in with bad counters that you want to take off that let you do things with this, maybe with Likeness Looter. I don't know. I think this card has me obsessed. I think this might be the card I play in Milwaukee almost regardless of what I'm doing because I might just like it too much. no matter how bad it is, which is a bad approach to trying to win a Magic tournament. But
It's bad to
cool.
win a Magic tournament, but like Magic is a game to have fun. That's the first and foremost thing. Always have fun with the game.
True. And that card's sick. I will be playing it. I will put something together, and then I will come back on here, and I will talk about it. And then I'll probably go 0-4 at Milwaukee, and then I'll come back on and tell you how good of a time I had. So
That's fair.
that's all I wanted to talk about.
All right.
Well, I believe that brings us to the end of the podcast. Do you have anything else you want to say to the fans that you got?
We probably missed a lot of cards on here that could be cool, and I'm sure we did. And that's awesome. The set's cool. I like it.
Johnny, you got anything else you want to add?
A lot of like what V said. I think when we have the mana base that we do, like we're gonna miss things, and there's gonna be some things that will be learned at Portland that there'll probably be other things people thought about that we're gonna be like, wow, that was right in front of us, and we did not see that, right? Because when you have perfect mana, there's a lot of things open up. So we'll be a lot of learning this coming weekend, and I think we're all excited to learn and see.
Yeah.
So
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I'm Kevin. This is V. This is Johnny. Thank you for listening to us, and hopefully we'll see you guys next time on Impact Statements.
Later.